Welcome. In this video, I'm going to talk about conflict, what it is and what it is not. And then I'll give an overview of 4 types of conflict and 4 models of conflict resolution. It's important to have an informed awareness about conflict in order to use productive skills to handle conflict. I'm Dr. Lynette Wiest, and you're watching Wisdom's Peaceful Harmony. In order to resolve conflict, you want to know what type of conflict you're experiencing and then to know the resolution model to use. Now, although conflict often ushers in emotional fluctuations, pressure, and anger, when managed productively, conflict can bring opportunity to create cooperation, teamwork, and healthier relationships. Conflict helps clarify problems, and when it's managed with healthy intentions, it can motivate efforts for developing cooperative ways to resolve problems. When you experience conflict, make your goal productive, not destructive. Be sure that you're using productive communication skills in order to empower teamwork and personal responsibility. And be sure that you're using love to guide your understanding, to guide your brain. Everything that comes into our lives brings valuable lessons to evolve our awareness of love. And this includes conflict. Conflicts are usually labeled as fights or arguments or confrontations, and some underlying reasons for conflict can include an increased need for understanding or being understood. It can include not believing that needs are being met or fulfilled. Or it could be that there's an increased need for cooperation and a decreased need for competition. It's important to realize that the needs of both parties can be fulfilled. Efforts to care for one party does not need to minimize or devalue the efforts to care for the other. When conflict is realized, the priority is to cooperate, not compete. Cooperation decreases tension and increases the ability to meet the needs of everyone. Now, here are 2 very basic examples of 2-person conflict. And while most conflict isn't this straightforward, and a lot of conflict involves several people, or it can involve multiple groups, I'm going to use these examples because they're simple and they can quickly get some basic points across. So in the first example, Joe wants to be alone and to relax after a difficult day at work. Mary feels alone and wants to talk with Joe. Mary tries to get Joe to talk, but he ignores her. She complains he's shutting her out, and then he blows up. In this example, Joe and Mary both have reasonable desires, but both are competing for whose desire will be fulfilled. Without cooperative communication, they collide and they produce conflict and competition. Here's another example. John and Jane are arguing. He's irritated. His adrenaline begins to flow, and he feels a headache coming on. He threatens to leave, and he stops talking. Jane is concerned that he will leave her, and so she tries to convince him to stay, and then he feels more motivation to leave. Each person feels internal pressure escalating in reaction to the other person, and spontaneous thoughts and feelings increase the desire to react to the situation without taking the time to talk about the problem, without taking time to problem solve in a thoughtful and a productive way. In this second example, some of John's thoughts might be, I can't handle these feelings, or she's trying to start a fight. And some of her thoughts might be, he's trying to walk away and he's leaving for good, or he doesn't love me, or he doesn't care about me. Their thoughts are worse than reality. If the thoughts are not addressed and resolved, then the thoughts can create the reality over time, like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We must be aware of the thoughts that we create. According to Sri Guru Granth Sahib, quote, "My mind is the yardstick and my tongue is the scissors," end quote. Make your heart your guide and make your thoughts and your tongue your heart's tools. Now, here are some false beliefs about conflict. Belief number 1. To avoid conflict in a relationship, a person should hide their feelings. This is not true. Another false belief is that when there is conflict, someone must win. Not true. Another is that when anger is expressed towards me, it means I'm not loved. Not true. Another is that when anger is expressed towards me, I become less of a person. Not true. Another, if I compromise in a conflict, it means I'm weak. Not true. When I'm hurt, I shouldn't tell the person who hurt me. Not true. Conflict always creates hurt feelings. Not true. And when there is conflict, someone has done something wrong. Not true. So here are 4 productive models for conflict resolution and conflict communication. I'm going to introduce each one, and then each model will have its own respective video to describe each of the steps within that model in detail. So in the first model can be called blowing off steam, or it's not about you. In this model, it's useful to use it when you're upset about someone or something other than the person that you're talking with. This is for times when you just want to vent and you want the other person to listen. Model number 2 is called confrontation, or it does involve you. And this model is useful when the other person is the focus for your anger or frustration and you do not feel a need to problem solve. So the goal of this model is to be heard and to hear, but the goal of this model is not to have a problem that needs to be solved. If the issue does involve the other person and you do want to problem solve, then you'll use model number 3, which is called problem solving, or let's negotiate for change. This model is very useful when attempted solutions have been unsuccessful. Continuing to use unsuccessful solutions can in and of itself become a large part of escalating the problem, and it creates other problems. In this model, it's important to clearly define the problem, and it's just as important in this model to understand each person's unsuccessful attempted solutions thus far. So this model requires a lot of working together in specific steps towards a cooperative solution. And then in model number 4, model number 4 is called the timeout. And this model is for times when communication is out of control and the words may have become unproductive, feelings may have escalated, and goals may be unclear. If intentions have shifted from problem solving to attacking or blaming or defending, use the timeout. Even if you're in one of the other models, if you need a timeout, use the timeout. The timeout model provides an opportunity to calm down and then to return to problem solving. While a timeout is used to reduce overly stressed communications, the timeout is not intended to avoid communication. So when the time comes for one of the models to be used, be familiar with the appropriate model to use and the steps to be taken. The steps will, like I said, the steps will be spelled out in each of the videos respective to each model. Ideally, both people in the relationship learn and practice these models prior to having a conflict and trying to implement the model. But it's not always possible to learn the models ahead of time or to learn the model with another person. And it's difficult to use the models with someone who's unfamiliar with them. However, implementing them the best that you can is definitely the best thing to do. Remember what Sri Guru Granth Sahib said, quote, "My mind is the yardstick and my tongue is the scissors," end quote. Make your heart your guide. Make your thoughts and your tongue your heart's tools. If you would like to see more videos about relationships, about communication skills, and about love's power, it is free to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Welcome